Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later, as right now, it's time to spray and pray. That is to say that we're checking out this guy, who is FansToys FT-45 Spindrift. Let's see what it's all about. FT-45 is a new release from well-known third-party company FansToys, and sees them bringing to life another 1985 mini-bot character, it's Seaspray. Following on from the likes of Warpath and Beachcomber, they're now turning their attention back to the little blue hovercraft, having already tackled him once before with their FT-27 release. This time though, they've definitely swung much closer to the character's on-screen appearance from the second season of the original Transformers cartoon, where Seaspray regularly cropped up for a spot of water-based hijinks. In fact, he contributed to some of the more bizarre adventures seen during the G1 TV show, which along with his distinctive aquatic-themed vocal style, made him really quite memorable indeed. Now, I wasn't a big fan of FT-27 myself, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what FansToys have cooked up for their second attempt at the character, and how it compares with the other third-party options available on the market. Last thing before we begin, this review comes courtesy of TF Source, so you will find a link to their site in the video description below. The plan for today is to give you my first impressions before getting a full photo review up on their blog soon. So here is Spindrift in his box, and it's the typical FansToys affair with some nice artwork on the front and some promotional pics and some character blurb on the back. And included in the box are these two small guns, a spare head, which my collector sense is telling me is meant to represent the G1 toy, a little baggie with some instructions and a character card as well, and then you've got the toy itself, and I think it looks really, really good straight out the box. A lot more cartoony in style than their last attempt at this character anyway, a lot more kind of in line with the current trend of the Takara Tomy Masterpiece line, and I think that's going to be a bit of a love it or hate it situation for some people. You know, like if you are a fan of where the official line is going, maybe you'll really like that, and if you're not, maybe you won't, hey? But yeah, if we just do a kind of quick 360 on this guy, you'll see that he is really, really clean from every angle. I mean, could you argue that that's a little backpack at the back there? I don't really think so. I think that's about as clean as it gets, to be fair. And yeah, very, very tidy from every angle. I really think that he looks great. I mean, I think there's absolutely no doubt that FansToys have gone after the old G1 cartoon look pretty heavily here, and I do think that there's been a bit of a shift in their aesthetic as the years have kind of gone on. You know, certainly compared to their older stuff, this is quite different. It's been subtle, a lot more subtle than Takara Tomy anyway, but it definitely has happened, and I think this is good evidence of that. Still though, I do think it was kind of warranted, you know, FansToys giving another go to this character, Seaspray, giving it another pass, because I've got to be honest, the original version, the original Spindrift, I was not a big fan of that toy. I had it in hand very briefly, a review sample that was doing the rounds at the time, and just couldn't really get on with it. It was very overly stylized, just a little bit fiddly, and just not a big fan. But already with this guy straight out of the box, I feel like they've righted a lot of wrongs in that regard. Now, proportionally speaking, he's maybe a little bit of an oddball, but I do think again it's a good nod towards the character, and they've kind of captured that feeling, that kind of dad bod presence from the screen that I personally really, really love. Again, I don't think it's going to be for everybody, but I really dig it, and I think they've done a good job with it here. And they have kept things pretty simple in terms of detail as well. You know, I mean, there's not a whole ton of molded detail on here. As I say, it's definitely cleaner than a lot of their earlier stuff, which is really interesting to see how that's evolved, and kind of keeping it maybe a little bit more in line with Takara Tomy's efforts as well, as I've already mentioned. There is this little panel just at the top there, which kind of flips over out the box. That doesn't come already in place, just need to kind of flip it over. And then there's this little panel here, which actually is for an Autobot logo, if you want to put one on there, and then that will rotate during transformation to kind of hide it away, so that's kind of cool. But I do kind of like the aesthetic that they've got going on here. You know, it is a bit cleaner, it is a bit smoother, a bit more kind of cartoon-esque, but yeah, I think it looks great. Also kind of feels really solid and chunky, this guy, like it feels well made. You know, there's some nice kind of painted finish going on, definite presence of die-cast in certain parts, so you know, it's got all the right hallmarks that will keep FansToys collectors happy, I think. I'm really digging the head sculpt on this guy. I really feel like they've nailed the character actually. Again, very simplified, particularly versus their previous attempt at this character, but it's got everything that you would want to kind of evoke Seaspray. You know, it's got the nice little mouth plate, it's got a couple of piercing blue eyes there, very typical of FansToys. FansToys, the way that they catch the light, and I think it's rocking. He's got these little black propellers at the back there, which kind of rotate round, so no fixed position for them if that's something you were hoping for, so, you know, they may need a little bit of adjustment if you want them to look symmetrical, but other than that, you know, a bit of fun. It's got a pair of big chunky old arms there, very bulbous. I like how they look, and again, very simplified in style versus the original Spindrift toy, but yeah, I really like how those look. And I think it's really clear to see how that kind of cartoony aesthetic carries through on the legs just here. It's kind of a good evidence of it. I mean, just look at the kind of slightly curved nature of these legs just there. You know, that's a good indication versus the kind of hard angles that FansToys had on a lot of their earlier toys. And I really like the little feet too. I think they've done a good job proportionally with the feet of kind of reducing them down. We'll see that obviously during transformation, but clearly there's a lot of bump kind of folded away to make them look at least not too clowny. I mean, they're just the right amount of clown shoes styled, I would say. And yes, the back is kind of the least tidy part of this, you know, with the screws kind of obviously in the back of the legs and arms, little ratchets just there as well. A couple of bits and bobs, but on the whole, it's absolutely fine. And as I say, in terms of backpack and kibble, very clean. So yeah, so far I'm really kind of digging him. I feel like makes a very good first impression. I think he's going to be a good competitor for the x-transbots version. We'll do a comparison in just a moment, but yeah, very strong first impression. Now, articulation wise, he's pretty typical for a lot of FansToys products in that he's got everything you'd need, but he's kind of non-remarkable as well in that regard. I mean, the head will rotate quite freely round, will look up and down, just a touch as well. The shoulders are pretty stiff and got a bit of the old FansToys squeak going on just there, but they go all the way up, actually kind of past 90 degrees, and you will get a 90-degree bend at the elbow as well, so that's fine. There is a bit of wrist swivel going on just there, very tight actually in that, and then the fingers, again pretty classic, just molded on a single piece. Coming down to the bottom half, and there is a waist swivel there, very tight again, but it's there. And then the nice clicky little ratchets at the hips just there. No hip skirt that you have to move out the way, so I'm kind of a fan of that, but you get 90 degrees at the hips. And then very tight ratchets at the knees. And you will get actually not quite 90 at the knees. I don't think that's going to go any further than that. But then you will get a nice ankle tilt and a bit of foot articulation as well. Then, of course, the last thing in terms of posing him is you want to go ahead and get his guns into his hands. They just kind of clip into the palm, like so. Little peg and palm method there. And there we go. As I say, it's pretty typical of a lot of FansToys stuff, really, in that, you know, it's got all the joints you would expect, but nothing more, nothing less. You know, no ab crunch and things like that. No kind of butterfly joints in the shoulders. Nothing too fancy, but everything that kind of gets the job done. And the joints are nice and tight. He feels really solid. I do think that you may just have to tighten the screws just inside there on the ankles a little bit sometimes. They're just starting to come a touch loose on mine, but, you know, quick screwdriver job, it's a good one. Now, speaking of a screwdriver job, if you want to change the head for that alternate head that he comes with, you will need to take the screw at the back here and remove the head completely. Not my favourite solution, it's got to be said, but there you go. Unfortunately, I can't really show you what it looks like on my copy, as when I went to separate the two halves of the alternate head here, I can't get them apart for love nor money. And yes, I have taken the screw out the back before anybody asks, but yeah, it's almost like they're glued together. I just cannot get them apart. I've tried with a little tool, everything, cannot separate them to get them on in place of the default head, which is a bit of a shame because it does give the toy quite a different look. And as I say, with this one on, it would give it a much closer look to the G1 toy actually, and with those kind of vents on the faceplate and everything there. I'm not too worried because I would definitely stick with the cartoony head myself, but still a little bit disappointing maybe, particularly if you were planning on using this one. It would definitely make it look more like that original toy. Anyway, speaking of the Generation 1 toy, it's probably time for a few comparisons, isn't it? So here he is with that same toy just here on the right, and the two Generation 2 versions just there on the left, including the purple variant, which I'm very pleased of, I have to say. Anyway, I was going to say that actually with the spare head not fitting, that it wasn't too much of a worry, as this thing is so kind of cartoony in style that do you really need it to look like the Generation 1 toy? But actually, seeing them side by side, I think he does a pretty good job at approximating that as well. Here he is with a bunch of Masterpiece carbots, including Sunstreaker, Wheeljack and Prowl, the plus versions anyway, and again, I think he looks really good. He kind of taps into that nice cartoony style that a lot of the later MPs are going for, and I think it works. And here he is with a few more official MPs, and this is a bit of a 1985 flair for you. You've got Smokescreen, Red Alert and Inferno, and again, it's a real treat to see. I think that lineup works very nicely indeed. But then let's take a look at him versus some other mini-bots. So here you've got a plethora of third-party little lads. You've got Bad Cube Grump standing in for Gears, and then you've got FansToys' own Hunk for Brawn, and then Bad Cube again with their Huff. And yeah, I think size-wise, I think it all kind of works quite nicely, and he really kind of fits the pattern with what that kind of, again, that cartoony shift that we're seeing a lot of third-party companies do. And then rounding out the 84 crew, at least, we've got x-transbots Toro standing in for Cliff Jumper, and their Boost for Windcharger, and the official MP-45 Bumblebee. And again, I think it works, good height on this guy, a little bit taller than your kind of average mini-bot maybe, but I like it. Of course, you're going to want to see him with at least one attempt at a Masterpiece-styled Optimus Prime, right? And so here he is with Transform Element Op Leader, which I think does a really good job, again, kind of aping that cartoony look that a lot of the toys are going for these days, and yeah, I think they look pretty wonderful together. And then this is a fun one to see, is here we have all 5 1985 mini-bots represented in third-party Masterpiece form. And I think what's really interesting here is that I've had this lineup several times over, actually, but it's slowly being replaced by FansToys. I mean, the 3 toys to the left there, Warpath, Beachcomber, and Seaspray, obviously, are all by FansToys now. But originally I had Badcube, War Dog, standing in for Warpath, and x-transbots Arcos for their Beachcomber. And as I say, they're slowly being replaced by the one third-party company. So we've also got DX9's Powerglide there and x-transbots Cosmos. And so will they stand the test of time, or will they be replaced as well? I guess we'll have to see another day. Which brings us on to the ultimate comparison for today, because here he is with x-transbots Neptune, their take on the same character. And obviously stylistically they do look a little bit different. You can see there are quite a few variances here and there, but ultimately they're still kind of going, from the same hymn sheet, I suppose. I mean, obviously Neptune is quite a bit taller, actually. At head height he does come up just a bit taller than old Spindrift there, Mark II. But still, I kind of like it. I don't know, I did always like the proportions on Neptune. I'm having a tough time with this one now, because they both do certain things really nicely. I do think that, actually, to their credit, FansToys, the design is a little bit more cartoon accurate. I think the way that the chest kind of comes together and everything there just looks a little bit closer to the animation model. But still, either of these toys, they both do a good job with this robot mode, in my opinion. And then to really show you what I mean, here they are with the character's animation model in the middle. And yeah, I don't know, looking at them now, I really do feel like Neptune, I don't know, I do like it, but the proportions maybe aren't as close as what is going on with Spindrift. And I do feel like Spindrift nails that, and the look as a whole. I think FansToys have done a really good job with it. So I can already feel that kind of pull towards the left there. That said, I do really like the finish on Neptune just here, the kind of sparkly blue that's going on, and it's a great transformation as well, really great toy overall, so there's really no loser here in my opinion. They're both great toys. Anyway, it's fair to say this robot mode's already won me over, so let's go ahead and check out transformation and vehicle mode. first transformation done, and on the whole, not too bad. Bit fiddly with how it all clips together, but the result is very nice as well. I mean, I think this is one of those great FansToys examples where maybe things are simpler in theory than they are in execution, and that's just really because of how everything kind of comes together on the sides just here, particularly these little panels, which really do kind of secure this whole section, you know, the arms back here, and then all of these bits that fold out from the feet. That's the kind of panel that really makes it all come together. But then in the instructions, they get you to do these white panels after the fact, and that kind of separates everything again and requires you to do it, you know, a second time. So I think if I was to do it again from scratch, I'd probably not follow the instructions in the order that they go, but it's really not that bad. And the result is pretty tidy, gotta say. I think it all tabs together fairly nicely. A couple of little alignment bits and bobs. Yeah, I just had to kind of tidy it up a little bit, but yeah, on the whole, very, very decent. I like it. Pretty cute little hovercraft too, isn't it? I think, again, it does a great job at bringing to life Seaspray's animation model in his vehicle form, and yeah, I think they've done a great job with it. I honestly think it looks fantastic. Colours are nice, build is nice. I like it. I mean, as we've already said, all of the various panels and everything here are very nice and tidy and come together very well, so that's good. And there's really no robot mode cable at all to speak of. You got the little head just poking out the back there, but even that looks very tidy, and I think, you know, it is quite accurate to the animation model, so on the whole, bit of a success. Like the little translucent windows in the front, they look kind of nice. Now just here you've got probably the only visual break in the alt mode, which is these little sort of sections on the side, which do look a little bit hollow. That's actually where his guns slot in just there. We'll take a look at that in a minute, but it's not too bad. Initially I thought maybe I'd missed something, but no, it does look like that. And then just here you've got the little section that flips round, so if you do want to put an Autobot logo on his chest, then that section would flip over as well and enable you know, to have a cleaner look in the alternate mode, so that's kind of cool. And then, as we already looked at in the robot mode, of course you've got those little propellers that spin pretty freely, so that's, you know, get a bit of fun with that, can't you? Now, as I already mentioned, you can go ahead and tab his guns into these little side sockets just there. You just need to fold that little panel up like so, and then the gun will just kind of slot in, and then you fold that down to kind of secure it. That works pretty easily. And now he's a weaponized hovercraft, because why not, eh? If you need such a thing in your life, then there you go. Now you can also store the guns in the front here, just in these little sections, but this is a bit more fiddly, it's fair to say. You got to get that bit open, there we go. Prise that open slightly, which is not easy at the best of times. That piece is actually made of metal, so it's a bit tough on the old fingers. And then here you go. Once you've got that piece up, then the gun just kind of slots in like that, and it's very secure. And you can do the other side as well. I'm just having a bit of bother prying up that little panel just there on that side. I've even tried pushing it from the underneath. Doesn't seem to want to budge at the moment. I'm sure I'll get it going at some point, but there you go. I think I prefer the sides. Overall though, he's a ton of fun, looks pretty much exactly like you would want him to. What's not to like? And yeah, between this guy and Smokey, FansToys' other recent effort, which I've just reviewed on the channel as well, I feel like they're on a bit of a roll at the moment. You know, there was a bit of talk of FansToys having a bit of bother at one stage, but looks like they're making a bit of a comeback, and it's going well, isn't it? And in terms of other comparisons, here he is with Masterpiece MP-25 Trax, standing in for your typical Masterpiece carbot, of course. And yeah, I think they look pretty good. Obviously, Trax and Seaspray share a very memorable scene in Dinobot Island in that 2-part episode. One of my favourites, actually. First time I think I saw either Seaspray or Trax in the cartoon from memory, and here they are. So I'm pretty happy with that. And then, of course, we've got the kind of main comparison for the day. This is with x-transbots Neptune, which is the one on the right just here, and this is the FansToys version just there, in case you're not keeping track. And they do look very different, actually. I mean, they've obviously got their similarities. They're going after the same thing at the end of the day. But you know, even, I mean, the colour is probably the first thing I would say. You know, much more of a kind of baby blue on the FansToys version, which I do like, I have to say. I think the colours are really nice. Much deeper, kind of more moody blue, if you will, on x-transbots. But, you know, the differences go beyond that, actually. I mean, the first thing I would say is the proportions, which actually the x-transbots one here is a lot more squished. It is shorter than FansToys, as you'll notice, and I kind of feel like actually these proportions on the x-transbots version are a little bit closer to the cartoon, actually, because this kind of front section there on FansToys just seems a touch elongated versus how the animation model looks, but we'll do a comparison in just a moment. The other big thing, of course, is that actually the x-transbots version is... it's kind of gone after that real world look a little bit more. Like, it's got windows up the top here, it's got a little kind of cannon thing on there, a lot of extra detailing, I would say. Whereas FansToys keeps it simple, just really, you know, dare I say it, brings the animation model to life much closer in that regard. And some people will like that and some people possibly won't. But that's kind of your core difference anyway. And then you can see what I'm talking about with that animation model talk because, well, there it is in the middle, so straight up comparison. And yeah, you can kind of see what I mean with the FansToys one, maybe missing it on the proportions just slightly. And x-transbots just having that kind of slightly squished front, but then the FansToys one really kind of nailing it on the aesthetic. So maybe it's horses for courses slightly. It's an interesting one for me though, because this is actually my Chex Notes 4th third-party Seaspray. My word! And so I've had the Toy World one in hand, and I had the test shot anyway of the Ace Collectibles one that was doing the rounds at one stage. Which a lot of people kind of liked. I was less keen on actually. I mean, it was okay, but yeah, this one actually or x-transbots, I think they're both really good. They would be my picks personally. Which one is better? Well, I'll decide another day. I think I need a little bit more time with them, but they've definitely both got their merit, that's for sure. And as far as it goes with FansToys today, then there's little doubt in my mind that it's a really good toy overall. I doubt you'll be disappointed. It's a toot. Now, as already mentioned, this review comes courtesy of the wonderful TF Source, so I will put a link to their site in the video description below. And I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Do you like what you see today, or you're not so sure? Do let me know. Otherwise, that's it from me, so don't forget to drop me a like if you enjoyed today's video, and have a great rest of your day. TTFN.